This is Justin AMZN on Wednesday, April 17th, 2019. Uh, just zoomed out a little bit on the 5 minute. We had a public participation, a distribution on the 5 minute all through here. Public participation to break down, turn a V bottom where we rallied up 50 points. And now it looks like we're in another 5 minute distribution. Um, you know, potentially similar to this one where we came up and then chopped around this day, even broke down below the nearby support, and see if we look like we'll break down some more, and then come right back into it and get back above it. If we can do what happened here and here, if this represents kind of what we did today, there's some similarities, and then if this represents potentially what we could do tomorrow. So initial sell-off, quick sell-off like this, and chop around into a triangle, something like this where we're chopping around some really big candles, volume comes in, expiration Friday kind of thing, or expiration Thursday this week, and then see if we get some of these hammer type candles saying, this could go higher. That, those are the first indications here that we may hold the levels in here. So we can look for something like that to happen tomorrow or over here. But for today, obviously we had another gap up, bullish retest gap. And just like the last few days, we had an indecision opening candle. The last 2 days have been bearish ones with an inside candle next. So 10 minutes of just some indecision. And then 2 days ago, we broke down. Yesterday, we broke bullish. And then today, and let me show you just like this. Today, we had the indecision candle again. But instead of having an inside candle, we had an indecision candle. This one was bullish. Instead of having an inside candle, we immediately broke down. So you could have been trading this as a fade with a pullback going down to our next support at 1863.84. And that would have been a nice trade. It came down there relatively quickly, had this really strong hammer here. I think there's another term for it, dragonfly doji with a really, really long lower tail, something like that. So we could have quickly traded this down. You would have had to been exiting a little bit prematurely before the line, which is possible to do. Next, we had what looks like a bounce candle, a bearish engulfing candle, and then another breakdown here. And this actually comes down and drops a hammer right here, right on this line, which is great to have a place to buy. It's just a really large candle, inside candle, inside body, but a slight higher wick, higher lows, and then kind of relative highs. And so this next candle here is very significant because you're breaking out above these highs, which is a reversal here. So you had a hammer, indecision, inverted hammer, and now a breakout. Yeah, this can definitely go higher. Now, the question is, how aggressively is it going to go higher? You close the gap essentially from where we closed yesterday. You've traded back down to that price, and you're bouncing off of yesterday's price. You're bouncing off of this line. But is it ready to run? With the $50 move it had over the last 2 days prior to today, it doesn't really make sense that it's going to continue to do that again a third day in a row with a massive move up. So, again, looking back at what we did a couple weeks ago, something that's got a little more chop to it, a triangle, that's what we ended up doing. And we actually had a few opportunities. Let's see. So right here, this is a really nice triangle here. Some lower highs, higher lows, really small candles right on the lines in here, kind of a squeeze with the lines, and a squeeze down here as well. And then we break down. Pretty quick move right into, let's see, the low here is 1863.56. Our trend line here, or our support line here is 1863.84. Comes right down into that. Would have been a great trade. Probably a 1-to-1 with options, something a little bit more than that with stock. And then if it continues down, and rolls over and pushes below the support line, like it did towards the end of the day yesterday, that'd be great. the problem is it didn't do that. It had a really nice bounce. I think this is a bullish engulfing candle here, and starts to bounce. And so it's like, okay, this, maybe this is just the retest of this triangle. And we'll come up here to 1868 and roll over, get the squeeze going. But now it's like, okay, we're past 1868, we're right back up to this high. Right back up to this high, and it needs to roll. It has to roll over. This looks too strong, but it's a bounce off of a support, so it should be strong, Indecision candle, I'm sorry, very small candle, somewhat of an indecision candle. We do get somewhat of a rollover here, but then if you kind of look at this again, we got some lower highs. Maybe this wasn't the apex of that triangle. Maybe it was. We just got a little above it here. But it just, something doesn't quite seem right with that. So let's see where this goes. It looks like we're going to roll over now again. So we come down, get a hammer that stays above. This one's very similar to the opening, not the opening. 15 minutes in where we had a low in here. This one looks similar, obviously not as long of a lower wick. But a nice small hammer here, doesn't touch the support, where we had, not touch, touch, not touch, touch, not touch. I don't know, maybe that's a pattern too. And it starts to bounce from here. So we've had these lower highs. Every time it's pushed up, we'll roll back down. This time we actually make a slightly higher high. It's like, okay, this could be the start of a breakout. Again, small candles, indecision. Squeeze is still not fired. And it just goes sideways. Just sideways for, we got the squeeze firing. There we go. So it goes sideways for like 40 minutes here. What is that? Yeah, 8 candles, 40, and then starts to break out. Obviously, you want to be getting in bullish within these candles, or you can do it on a breakout, because this is your retest. You can getting in here, and it's conservative stop maybe below this candle. I'm sorry, conservative down here below the support, and then a more aggressive would be below like this candle, the last actually, bullish moving candle that broke above some bearish highs. That'd be a good place to put your stop. But if it takes out that low, it should come down a little bit more, maybe contend with the support again. So here's your breakout. We don't have much room to go till we get to, some bearish candles here and here. This one's, maybe an R above. This one's maybe R1/4 or something. The high would probably be 2R, if it gets going that way, and it starts to. And then just like we had some things happen yesterday, we got up into these highs after another push higher. This is the right kind of setup for today to continue, what's been happening in the last 2 days with these rallies. And we get a nice little pullback here. This is a nice hammer to wait on to get in. At the low here, maybe you got an entry at the 21 back into this range, and then you can have a much more aggressive stop. We just couldn't get going bullish. We've got these highs in here. They're right around the open price on this candle, right near the low, kind of like a double bottom sort of shape with this low here. And it's got to break out. It's got to move now for this to continue higher. We start to lose the bullish momentum of the squeeze. We've made those 8 to 10 bars, and we actually start to pull back a little bit. This one was through the 5. This is now to the 21, and it needs to bounce. This looked like it started to bounce. Some bulls were getting in bullish, and then more bears came in and are selling it back down. We have some volume coming in on the bearish candle here. This looks like a double top if it could break down. And then it does. This was a nice pullback here, looking at kind of both directions. This is starting to move bearish, but it comes right into somewhat of a triangle apex. If you got to squint a little bit, if you draw some higher lows and lower highs, you get kind of this, into this range of this candle, this area here above our support. And this looks like a nice bounce off of that. This looks like a short term, like this looks like a rest, a sideways retest. This looks like an actual pullback retest. Oops. And it could start to run from here. But again, it just seems like the move we've made bullish over the last 2 days, we really just need to rest. There may be some more bulls, but they're going to want to wait for a bigger pullback, or the ones that are getting in here are just going to get trapped. And that's what happened today is, with this pullback and then, these candles, this one rallying, some bulls were getting on, and then immediately it starts to sell back off. Even with this bearish retest gap, that does retest on this candle. This is a bearish retest gap during the day, which, it happens occasionally. It just seems like this one is very clear. You have a stair step for 15 minutes, a gap down. There's some clearance in here during the day to say, yeah, this isn't going to just move right back up. And what happens? We just continue to sell down. Look like we have a nice indecision, potential bounce off of our low again. The low on this candle is 1863.75, so really close to our line at 1863.84. Starts to break down below that. And again, another indecision right on this line. Very similar to this one. This one was just some larger candles to start. It looks like this one, which was not right on the line, bearish, bullish, bearish, bearish, bullish, bearish, So what do we do from here? The next candle says we go sideways a little more. Look like we're going to start to bounce. We don't get a close above the high like we did here on this candle or here on this candle. So even just looking at the candles during the day here, you see, oh, okay, we're not making that same kind of move. This looks like it's going to roll over, invert, hammer right on the line. It could go lower. We had that here. Invert, hammer right on the line. Didn't go lower. It could have. This one's going lower, breaking down. Right now it's after 2 o'clock, so there's only so much time. So if you're taking this bearish here, you're going to want to be aggressive with getting out at a low, or taking some profit and letting the rest ride, and just trail your stop real tight, because if we do something like this where we break down, we could still retest and get really close to this line, and you may end up being break even into the close. So you may actually be up a little bit just prior to the close, just depending on the timing and when you're looking to exit. So that's why I would say try and take some profits, and then we do actually move right back up. So this is a retest from below, and didn't quite get there yesterday. Didn't quite get back up to this level, and then we gapped above it. So this is really our first retest of this level since we were. Let's see, when we were below it. It's been a while since we were below it. And then we're just, sideways into the close here. Get above it a little bit. If we do end up gapping down, which is where we were at after hours, we're going to contend with this level again. If from below or above, I actually don't know where the price is going to open. Sometimes I wonder if I did a video in the morning, if it would help, get an idea of where we're going to open and what the setup could be. But I just haven't fit another set of videos in the morning in for what I'm doing. But usually trying to watch things in the morning and see where the price is at, how it's going to interact with levels it's been at already, and interact if it's a gap with levels we either haven't seen in a while, or what we haven't seen in a while may not be relevant, because you can zoom in on our smaller time frames here, like the 5 and the 15, things like that, and see, okay, what could I look for support resistance? We've got this line. The next line above is at 18.80 and 5 cents. So if we do have some more continuation, we could get up there. I'm not really seeing a triangle in what we've got here, just like this consolidation. This one triangle, just this smaller portion. But I'm not seeing that on a full day sort of setup. This one didn't last for a day. This one was more of a day, and this actually turned into a triangle here that after hours broke down, and then we had the gap up that day that again did nothing. But you can see all day lower highs and relative lows. I'm not seeing that on the full day. I'm seeing a lower high. I'm seeing relative lows, but I'm not seeing something clearly that I could draw and connect, more than 2 points to make it happen. So with regard to that, there's not enough of a pattern on the day to say, okay, let's wait for the pattern to play out and then it'll break out or break down. No, let's just anticipate that there could be some sort of, sideways distribution again. And, then we could have a continuation, with the public participation, bullish or bearish. I don't know. But having just some sideways action here has the potential to be similar to where we're at here. We didn't automatically rush up to the next resistance line. We really built up some steam here, waiting for momentum to build for it to move bigger. And it did with the view bottom and then a strong rally. So now if we take a look over at some of the options, I know we're going over the 5-minute candles, which is good to just get back into again. Just read the candles, see what's happening. So had you been trading this first triangle, there was about an R here, but a nice bounce off of this level. We can look at buying calls here and here and see what those would be. With the calls, I'm looking at the 1875 calls, and that's just buying any of these lows. If you did that, buying, right off of the support, that would have been around $4, and then that did end up running to 6. So you could have done 4 by 3 and a target at 6, and that would have worked one time. The other times we pull back a little bit more pull back here and didn't even make it up to 2R. Just scalping out an R here and R here. If you're getting into the right value, if you're getting it at 3 here, 4. If you're getting it at 4 here, and it starts to rally. You may want to move your stop, but then you'd be stopped out as it pulls back and then does end up continuing up on the day. But again, just not easy to do a 2-hour trade. Even though 1875 with the data expiration, it seems like it's only $3-4 away here. It should have some more value in it. So it doesn't. It's not moving enough. It's going in the direction, it's just not moving enough. So those are signals to say, okay, if you're up, just take some profits. Just get out, go look at the next setup, and just carry on. And so then we can look at some of the puts that would have been like up here, where we're back up at some potential resistance, retesting that. So anywhere in the 12 o'clock range, really, when we're up here. So jumping over to the puts. Now the puts I'm looking at are the 1860 because our line is at 1863. You could look at the 1865 and have the move into the money, going bearish. But you can see there was this clear support here around 4. We ended up breaking that, moved up to 5, so only an R gain from 4, and then had a larger rollover here. Again, this is where you got the triangle set up, triangle formation here, but on the options, it's more of a wedge that just continues to lose premium. And then you got to wait for it to actually go in the direction of where you want the gain. And, in this case for puts, you want the stocks to go down. And once it's finally moving that direction, then the option would start to move. And so you have the potential to get in on this, like 3 by 2. Wait for that breakout or wait for the retest. Don't chase it when it's up here because it should pull back. And it did here. Could have gotten in for 3. Let's see. One was 3, right? Possibly could have had an order for 3. And I don't know if it would have filled or not. There's not lower wicks here to say, that the price, wick down to that just to fill. But if there's an open order, sometimes that would happen. And a nice rally, from like 3 by 2 running up to 6. It's a 3-hour trade. So I take that. That works. So I hope this helps kind of diving into the options, comparing. If we zoom back out here, would not be surprised with just some more of a choppy day. I also wouldn't be surprised if we sell off sharply going into a holiday weekend. That's kind of where I'm leaning to see that. But if everybody's thinking that, maybe it'll gap up again in the morning. And I guess we'll just have to figure out how to trade that. In this case, this is a bearish candle. So if we can gap above it, that'd be yet another bullish gap and go, like this one was. So we'll see if we end up doing that way up here. And we'll see what kind of gap, if anything, for what happens tomorrow. So hope you enjoyed this video, and be back tomorrow with another one. This is Justin, Amazon. Thanks.